guys, I'm Tracy. Welcome to Love Your Shelf. Let's talk about some books today. Today I want to talk about books that are near and dear to my heart because it is Pride Month. Happy Pride Month. So I wanted to talk about some LGBTQIA plus books that I love. Three of them are memoirs or nonfiction, and the rest are fiction books. And I wanted to talk to you about them today and just share a few things about them. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the second 5-star book that I read this year called We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. And it is considered young adult. And it is, I guess. It's about a girl who's in college. Her grandfather passes and she leaves. And you find out throughout the book, it's Christmas time, someone's coming to visit her. You don't really know who this person is, and you find out through the book that it was her best friend who became her lover, who she ghosted, essentially, once her grandpa passed, and just left to New York and barely talked to her ever again. And then her best friend showed up during Christmas, and it was very awkward. Because they had so much unresolved, and the best friend kept asking her to come home for Christmas because her parents really wanted her to, and it ended up just being like a really heartfelt, lovely book. And there's a few things from it that I wanted to read. So the first one is like it goes back and forth between what happened in the summer before she left and before her grandfather passed. And so this was an excerpt from right after they kissed for the first time. But how could trouble find us? We were miraculous. We were beach creatures. We had treasures in our pockets and each other on our skin. And I just think that that is so beautiful. Like when you first kiss someone for the first time, just like the feelings that you have there. I thought that was a really sweet way to encompass that. And then the next one was they're brushing their teeth. And this is what she says. And this is after everything. So her friend came to visit her. There's the separateness of us. I didn't return her 900 texts because I knew we'd end up like this no matter what. What happened had broken us. For all her care and understanding, she'll be the same as she's always been. Fearless, funny, and whole. She'll still be herself. And I'll be learning who I am now. And it's about how when you lose someone, you lose a piece of yourself, and you have to learn how to pick yourself up through the gratitude of having that person, but the bitterness of no longer having them, and relearn who you are without them and what your life means now through that. And I just think that it's so raw and true of things that we go through and how we all grieve differently. And even if there's someone that's going through grief of the same person, they go through that grief differently. There's different times that it hits them because they had a different relationship with that person. And I just think that it's incredible. So We Are Okay is it was my second. I have 3 5-star books now this year. This was my second one. It came in really late in the year, actually, I think in May. So I'm surprised I have a third one already, which is good. But I was like coasting for a while with that one. So I was really just super stoked that I had that one. The next one is kind of a shout out to Becky Chambers in general. She is an author. She wrote the Wayfarer series, the beginning. The first book is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. And she also wrote a Monk and Robot series. So that's A Psalm for the Wild Built was the first one. This is the second one, A Prayer for the Crown Shy. And it is about a monk who is sibling Dex and a robot named Mosscap. And it is beautiful. They go on a hunt to try to figure out what humans need. That's what the robot's trying to do. Sibling Dex is a tea ceremonialist. And there's a part of it that I want to read. And of course, I totally just lost my place. So hold on, let's see if I can find it. Decks press their lips together. That's the heart of my faith, Mosscap. That is what I'm saying to everyone who comes to my table. I say it out loud all the fucking time. You don't have to have a reason to be tired. You don't have to earn rest or comfort. You're allowed to just be. I say that wherever I go. It's painted on the side of my home, but I don't feel like it's true for me. I feel like it's true for everyone else but me. I feel like I have to do more than that. Like I have a responsibility to do more than that. And I feel like that all the time. Like I always feel like I have way more responsibilities. It's not okay to just be. I have to have a reason to be tired or be happy or be hungry or be upset or be whatever. And you don't. And there's a very beautiful moment at the end where they go off into the waves, and I'm very much a beach person, and so it's just gorgeous, because they talk about how the waves they just be. And the waves, they are just there. They're always beautiful, they're always reliable, they're doing their own thing, but they're doing it for themselves, and they're just being, and people have the ability to go and enjoy it at any time, and they welcome that, but they don't force anyone to, and they don't do what they do, the waves, the ocean, for anything but themselves. And the reason I want to do a shout out to Becky Chambers is because she creates worlds like this where it's very similar to Schitt's Creek. Like in Schitt's Creek, Dan Levy talks about how David, his character, who's pansexual, isn't treated any differently ever. No one questions his sexuality, and all of Becky Chambers' books are like that. Like, just these are the ways of the aliens in the planets, or people, or robots, or monks, and no one's there to question it. It's all just there to be exactly who they are, and it's beautiful. The next book I want to talk about is a nonfiction book. I read it last year. It was one of 6 of my 5-star books, and it's called In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado, and it is stunning. All of her chapters are like Dream House as a Haunted Mansion, Dream House as Sniffs from the Ink of Women, Dream House as I Love Lucy, Dream House as Musical, Dream House as The Wrong Lesson, and it talks about her and a very domestic violence situation that she was in. She talked about how she fell in love with this person, and then they slowly unraveled and showed this side of them, and then somehow she was just stuck in this dream house, and the way that she writes is so stunning. So I'm going to read just a chapter. It's called Dream House as Haunted Mansion. What does it mean for something to be haunted exactly? You know the formula instinctually. A place is steeped in tragedy. Death at the very least, but so many terrible things can precede death, and it stands to reason that some of them might accomplish something similar. You spend so much time trembling between the walls of the dream house, obsessively attuned to the position of her body relative to yours, not sleeping properly, listening for the sound of her footsteps, the way disdain creeps into her voice, staring dead-eyed in disbelief at things you never thought you'd see in your lifetime. What else does it mean? It means the metaphors abound, that space exists in 4 dimensions, that if you return somewhere often enough, it becomes infused with your energy, that the past never leaves us, that there's always atmosphere to consider. In this way, the dream house was a haunted house. You were the sudden, inadvertent occupant of a place where bad things had happened, and then it occurs to you one day, standing in the living room, that you are this house's ghost. You are the one wandering from room to room with no purpose, gaping at the moving boxes that are never unpacked, never certain what you're supposed to do. After all, you don't need to die to leave a mark of psychic pain. If anyone is living in the dream house now, he or she might be seeing the echo of you. It makes me want to cry just reading that, because it's so painfully accurate about domestic abuse or emotional abuse, but it's also so beautifully written. It's like hauntingly gorgeous. I 100% recommend this book to anyone. in the Dream House is so good, and it's meant to be like her. I'm sure she has a million reasons for writing it, but she talks about how lesbian abuse and domestic violence in lesbian relationships aren't talked about as much, but they happen more often. So it's a really good factual book about things that we need to be aware of, and I recommend it to anyone. It's amazing. The next book I'm going to talk about is Iron Widow. So Iron Widow is awesome. It ends up like it's about a time, honestly, where women were used to help fighter pilots, and the fighter pilots got all the glory, and the women pretty much committed suicide to help them do stuff. And so this main character becomes one of those fighter pilot people that are supposed to kill herself, like commit suicide, to help her pilot, and she refuses. But the action and the adventure in this and the femininity, like, it is awesome, and I recommend Iron Widow to anyone. It's so good. The next book I'm going to talk about is Your Emergency Contact Has Experienced an Emergency by Chen Chen. And I talk about this book all the time. I read it last year and I can't stop talking about it. It was also one of my top 5 favorite books last year. And it has changed the way that I think. It has changed my journal prompts. It has changed so many things. It's just an incredible book, and I was trying to find a part to read to you, and I thought that I had highlighted it, but I guess I didn't. Or I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but they're poems about Chen Chen, who is an Asian gay guy whose parents don't accept him, and he mentions throughout the book or throughout his poems about how his mom like always asks like, how's your dog, but doesn't ask how's your boyfriend that you've had for years. So it's really upsetting. But he also talks about their specific questions, which are from a different book, which is The Vertical Interrogation of Strangers. And there's 12 questions that they ask, and I use them for some of my journal writing now. So some of the questions are, who was responsible for the suffering of your mother? How will you live now? Who are you and whom do you love? What is the shape of your body? What do you remember about the earth? How will you or have you prepared for your death? What are the consequences of silence? And he uses what are the consequences of silence to talk about just something that's heartbreaking, but I'm going to read it. Another memory, another conversation, the same conversation. Are you afraid of women because of me? I shake my head. I'm shaking my head hard. I remember that feeling, shaking my head instead of screaming, though I also did that. I am shaking my head and trying to I shake my head. I am shaking my head hard. I remember that feeling, shaking my head instead of screaming, though I also did that. I'm shaking my head and trying to say calmly at a normal volume, I'm not afraid of women. I just don't feel for women what I feel for guys, I guess. I want to answer my mother, no, I'm afraid of you because of you. And then later on, he goes back to that question, what are the consequences of silence? And he says, I want to answer my mother, no, I'm not afraid of women and I'm not afraid of you. I love men, that's all. That's what you can't believe, won't say, won't let me answer because you can't find the right question. You guys, I'm so vulnerable reading some of these things. Like, oh my gosh, I can't. Yes, I feel like that all the time. We're not asking each other the right questions to be vulnerable enough or allow others to be vulnerable enough to open up and share what they want to share with us. And I have tried really hard to think about that when I am asking questions now, and it's not going great. It can be hard to do, but it's getting better. It's way better than just saying, how are you? I want to know, you know, like, what are the 3 things that have been bothering you lately? What have you been doing lately that you're really proud of? What is going on in your life you can't stop thinking about? What's something new that you learned that you love? Anything like that. New questions. Let's do new questions, guys. I love it. And this is just, this is such an incredible book about him wanting his acceptance from his parents, but moving on and doing what he needs to do without it. And it's incredible. The next book I'm going to talk about is Less, by Andrew Sean Greer. So Less is a book I read a while ago. I don't know if I read it now, if I'd still love it as much. Actually, let's backtrack. I didn't love this book when I read it. What's crazy is I picked it out because it's about a guy who finds out that his ex is getting married. So he's a writer, so he just plans a whole bunch of writing things for the summer or something. I think it's the summer, yeah. And he travels a bunch of places. So I picked this up because I love adventure books. And he does go a lot of different places, but it's really about him, like, traveling to get away from his, like, person that he had been with off and on for like 9 years that's now getting married, and all the regrets that he has for not just allowing their love to flourish. And there are things that he does throughout the travel, but it's not the big part of the book at all. The part of the book is him recognizing and learning to cope with this love he no longer has that he wishes he did. And it is definitely, and so, yeah, so when I got done with this book, I couldn't stop thinking about it. There's something about it, the way that it's written, what I expected it to be versus what it was, that I couldn't let go. And I have, like, I read it years ago, so I haven't thought about it in a while, but when I do think about books that I read and then couldn't stop thinking about, Less is one of them. And there is a second one that I haven't read yet, but I do plan to soon. The next books I'm going to talk about are Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the Universe, which is the second one, and Discover the Secrets of the Universe. And this is by Benjamin Elir Sands, and they're both incredible. So Aristotle is a more reflective person who doesn't really know or hasn't come to terms with himself being gay yet. At first he doesn't know, but then he can't really come to terms. And Dante is like flat out like, I'm gay, this is who I am, and I love it. And they meet, and Dante is like kind of a lost soul, and Aristotle kind of grounds him more, and Dante kind of brings Aristotle out. Like, yeah, literally and figuratively. And it's so good. It's like a great coming of age story about these two wonderful characters. Like, I fell in love with both of these characters. They're amazing. And you got to watch their love flourish, and it's beautiful. The next book I'm going to talk about is The House on the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. So this book is hilarious and super adorable. It's about a guy who's going to an orphanage to check out a house, and there's 6, I want to say 6, it might be 5. There's 6 kids there, and they're all like supposedly the worst ones. And this one guy is watching them, and so he is working for the company that is helping with these kids that are being fostered, and he goes to check it out and like make sure everything's kosher, and it's so cute. And I have the book because it's a gorgeous book, and I loved the book in general, but like the Everything about it is so cute. I love it. But I originally read it through audio, and the narrator was chef's kiss amazing. Like, the voices that he did for each character totally made the characters and the book, and it was so much fun to read. So House on the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. The next book is This Is How You Lose the Time War, which is a very short book. It's like 190 some pages. It's not even 200 pages. Every single paragraph in this book is packed with stuff, and I could probably read it over and over and over again and miss something. And it's about two feminine portrayed, I don't would I say they're people? One of them might be a person. I don't really know. They have feminine genders. I think they're people. Yeah, I should read this again. Apparently, I've missed some things. But they write love letters to each other with all of the things that they're doing. And it's by two people. It's by Max Gladstone, and it's also by Amal El Maltar. And I think that one was being one person and one was being the other person, but I'm not sure. I didn't ever read anything about how they did it, but I should. And they're just writing love letters back and forth to each other. And it's in a very, very, very different world. And so you have 190 pages to read these love letters where just things are stacked in every paragraph about this world that they live in and what they're doing. And they've never met that they know of when it starts, or that you know of when it starts. It's crazy. And there's like time travel involved, obviously, time war, time travel. That's what we're talking about. But it's beautiful, but like so fucking creative, and it's unlike anything I've ever read. And then last but not least, I'm going to talk about To Shake the Sleeping Self by Jedediah Jenkins, which is about Jedediah Jenkins going on a bike trip from Portland to Patagonia, but it also gives him a lot of time to reflect on growing up gay in a church atmosphere with a mother who's very Christian and is against gays, and he has a relationship with his mother that he wants to continue to nurture, and he still wants to find himself and be himself. He explores what he's held back and how his life has been shaped because he tried to be someone that he wasn't, because he didn't know for a long time, and then when he did know, he was scared of being gay because of the way that he grew up. And Jedediah Jenkins is incredible, and anything he ever writes, I am there for. He thinks about things in such an amazing way. He really has just evolved into an incredible, like an incredible writer that is so good at portraying different thoughts and perspectives. He's amazing. So To Shake the Sleeping Self. Oh my gosh. Okay, so there's one more book that I forgot to talk about because I don't have it somehow. So I wanted to also talk about The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which is about a A-star actress who's had multiple husbands, but falls in love with a woman, and it is so good. I almost didn't put it on here because I don't like the ending that much, but the rest of the whole book is incredible, and I read it so quickly. I do also have a few runners up that I'm just going to briefly mention, and that is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. It's a love letter to his mother. Light from Uncommon Stars, which is about a trans violinist, but also aliens and a donut shop. And then I put it in here because I do love this book. It comes up as LGBTQIA+ on Storygraph, the picture of Dorian Gray, for a few different reasons, probably. One being that it's written by Oscar Wilde, and another because I had to read about this because I'm like, why is this coming up as this? But there's homoerotic themes, which I guess I could see, but I wouldn't have caught on to it if someone hadn't said it. Oscar Wilde himself says no, so I didn't put it in here, but The Picture of Dorian Gray, also an amazing book. And then I also am going to talk briefly about 2 books that I can't wait to read that's in LGBTQIA, and that is The Prospect by K.T. Hoffman, which is about 2 baseball players that fall in love, and Don't Want You Like a Best Friend by Emma R. Albin, which is very Bridgerton vibes. One girl's in her 4th season, the other girl's in her 1st, and they fall in love. So that is my list of incredible books. Like, really, these books that I talked about they're almost all 5 stars for me, 4.75, close to that if they're not 5 stars, or they're books that have really changed my life or that I really just enjoyed reading. And I hope that you either have enjoyed reading them as well, or you do enjoy reading them if you ever pick them up. So yay for Pride Month, and thank you so much for coming to my video and talking about books with me today. Like and subscribe if you want, and I hope that you have a great day, guys. Namaste.